It's time for today's keynote, Finding Light in the Darkness. Throughout life's journey, we'll occasionally encounter challenging, sometimes difficult situations or events that challenge and change us and keep us from reaching for the stars. In our next speech, our speaker will share with you some of the dark times he's been through in his life, share with us how he found the light and how you can find the light as well. Join me in welcoming International Past President Richard E. Peck with Finding Light in the Darkness.
Thank you, David. Good afternoon, everybody. David, please don't go anywhere. I'd like to have you up here for the next 45 minutes to deliver my speech. Who was at Empire Toastmasters yesterday? Anybody? All right. I want to see if they were paying attention yesterday. What was the one thing I said about speaking yesterday that no one should ever avoid doing? Getting paid. Someone did pay attention to getting paid. That's right. So if you're a Toastmaster and you're a first-timer, please stand up. Toastmaster and first-timer. I need all your names. I'll be submitting my bills to you. No, please stand. Stay standing. David, this is where I'm going to need you. Okay? I'm going to ask them a question, and the first person that raises their hand, I want you to point out to me, okay? Because you got them? You see them all? All right. So what is it that, as speakers, we always like to get?
Right here.
Paid.
Paid, that's good. But what, as Toastmasters, we like to get? Paid also, but what else? Feedback. Evaluation feedback. Who'd like to evaluate me? Everybody's hand went right down. You have to be a first-timer, though.
Rorschach, over here.
First-timer in the back. Rorschach in the back. All right, David, if you would be so kind as to bring this to him. This is a Pathways evaluation form and a copy of my book, Poking the Cadaver, A Forensic Approach to Public Speaking. Thank you, David. I believe in giving back also. I think that's extremely important as us as speakers, but in getting something. So today, as you can see by the title, I want to talk to you about finding light in the darkness. And I'll give you a little idea about what darkness looks like, in my opinion. Darkness may look like something different to you. And that's the key to it, is that we all see things a little bit differently. But I want to give you an image to think about as we're going through this keynote and as you think about some of the things that you've gone through in your life. Does anyone remember what happened on April 8th, 2024? What big event occurred from the south to the northeast? That was the total solar eclipse, right? It was a big thing for us on the East Coast. I wasn't in the area of totality, but I did get a chance to see it. This is an image of the total solar eclipse as we see it. Do you notice the contrast, though? It says total solar eclipse, total darkness. But what do you notice in that image? There's a ring of light around it. There's what they call Bailey's beads. Now, I want to give you a side story about knowing your audience. I just presented the same keynote a few weeks ago at a district, and I bring up a solar eclipse slide. And sitting right about where David is a gentleman from the Jet Propulsion Laboratory who's worked on the Mars Explorer program. And I'm thinking to myself, there's nothing I'm going to tell this guy that he doesn't already know. But Bailey's beads are that light band that's around even in what is considered to be times of total darkness. Does anyone know what happens after this scenario? As the moon moves away, you get a big burst of light called the diamond ring. And as we start thinking about the darkness and the light, as we start to move out of that darkness, we see the diamonds that are there for us, that greater level of brightness. But what is darkness? I'll make sure my slides are advancing. For me, darkness is that time that could be challenging. Now, to us, it might be challenging. To others, it may appear to be nothing. And they don't understand why that happens. It's times that are overwhelming. Anyone ever felt overwhelmed? Anyone ever felt challenged? Felt like you couldn't find a way out, didn't have a solution to a problem? Club members, club officers, you feel that at your club? We're struggling, we can't find a way out. Other clubs that are doing well are going, I can't figure out why they can't get their club members up. It's funny, but it's true. Because they don't see the same challenge the way you do. Area directors making visits or attempting to make club visits and clubs not inviting you to visit. Yet other area directors are having a great time. You're challenged, they're not. They don't see it the same way. And as individuals, there are times in our lives when we are going to be faced with challenge, when we're going to feel like we're overwhelmed and there's nothing we can do about it. But if we look for those bright spots, if we look for the light, if we don't focus on the darkness, we can find ways around it. Now, I'll be honest with you, I wasn't always that way. I used to get angry, frustrated, mad, really angry. As a teenager growing up, I didn't know how to process those things. They were definite. I remember finding a note on a counter one night from a family member who was threatening to do personal harm. Now, you can imagine reading that and that being completely out of your control, not knowing what to do, not knowing how to address it, but not knowing that that person was going through that. And of course, back in those days, we didn't talk about mental illness, and we didn't talk about those challenges, just kind of brushed it under the rug. Now, fortunately, that person did not go through with it, but it caused a memory to be there. And it caused resentment. Right? How could you do that? How could you do that to your family? Another time, and David, you'll appreciate this, I remember you talking last night about the Watcher, books 1 through 12, bagged and boarded and hidden away, right? As a young man, I was a stamp collector. Anyone remember when stamp collecting was a big thing? Yeah. I had a great collection, mid-1800s through the 1950s, almost complete, including some of the rarities. But due to some bad investments on some other people's parts, not mine, everything was locked down and taken away. And I was angry. How could somebody take my stuff that I worked hard on, gone like that? Because I didn't see anything else. But that darkness, that was mine. And you took it away from me. But as I started to get older, I started to realize that that was my selfishness, that was me not looking at things from a broader perspective, from somebody else's perspective. And unfortunately, when you start seeing things in the darkness, regardless of whether you're a club member, a district leader, or an individual, that's all you see. You don't see anything else. Anyone ever wake up on January 1st of a year and go, this is going to be a great year? Nobody? I'm leaving. You wake up on January 1st, some of you make resolutions that last till about noon. Some of you make resolutions that maybe last a little bit longer. I don't make resolutions. Actually, I made a resolution one year, I was able to keep it. Decided I was going to care less about things that I had no control over. I was able to keep that one. It's easy. But 2009, trip back in history, was going to be a great year. Probably one of the best years in my life up till that point. In 2009, I was about to become a member of the senior team of Toastmasters, a lieutenant governor marketing at the time, your club growth director now. Ooh, years ago. Some of you will remember those titles. I was thrilled to be able to be on that stage, to be able to contribute to my team, to be able to contribute to our members. Anyone enjoy contributing to others and helping them achieve their goal? Yeah. He has got the quickest hand of anybody I've ever seen, Magnus. It must be spring-loaded. That hand is up. I don't think I get the question out. He already answered it. He's ready. I'm watching him. No questions coming up. I'll give you a nod before I ask the next one. But in 2009, I had also bought my first race car and developed my first race team as a professional racer. Decided after a number of years of working for people, working on their cars, that no more. I was going to have people work for me, so I bought a car, was getting all ready to license out, start my career as a race car driver. Two really cool things for 2009. The convention was going to be in my district. Where's Rick? Rick probably went to Foxwoods Casino. Not a convention we talk about often. It was a casino in the middle of nowhere. Empire Toastmasters, you are not in the middle of nowhere. Our convention was in the middle of nowhere. And if you didn't like a casino, you had nothing you could do. And you were stuck there. Three really great things, right? Where could there be any dark? It's all bright. Until this. And in April of that year, I was diagnosed with stage 4 throat cancer. And that's how I spent my time, being radiated. And being radiated and then driving to convention. Because I didn't want to give up on my team. I didn't want to give up on those individuals who had brought me to where I am. But it was all taken away, or could have been all taken away. And that's all I saw. How could this happen to me? Why am I in this position? I didn't see the bright spots in it. And there were bright spots if I would have just opened my eyes to see them. I learned that I needed to delegate more. Right? You can't do it all by yourself, especially not when you're flat on your back. I found out that I had true friends out there. See, every time I'd want to get in a race car, I'd get to step in and I'd fall over. And my guy, you're not going racing today, but I want to. You can't get in the car. You'll never be able to stop it. They were protecting me from myself. Because my belief in the darkness said, I am going to do this. Nothing is going to stop me. To my detriment, the things that could have hurt others. But it wasn't until years later that I realized there was brightness there. I realized after my chemo and my radiation that others couldn't see a way out, that they were facing similar problems, but they were in a darker place than I was. And I would go and I would talk to them and try to help them out of it. And I realized the importance of being able to rely on people, that bright spot of others being there to support you and pull you from it. And I remember being at my Toastmasters Club. And my Toastmasters Club was my greatest family, right? I'd come in, I probably weighed about 15 pounds less than I do now. And I'd walk in slowly, and I'd be at the meeting, and what do you think they said? We need a speaker tonight. We need an evaluator tonight. You're here, do something. And it's true, isn't it, Joy? There you go. Yeah. Joey, they will encourage you. They don't care about anything else. We need the roles filled. We've got guests coming in. We'll prop you up. It was like Weekend at Bernie's. But we got through it through the help of others. And I went on for a number of years. I started my Toastmasters journey, completed my district leadership team, and decided I wanted to do a little bit more. I had just recently got my degree in international business, realized that there was more to the world than what we were seeing in our organization, and felt that I could make a contribution. So in 2016, I decided to run for the board of directors, the next step up the chain. Actually, this is not true. 2016 was second vice president year. Let me skip ahead a little bit more because this one's more dramatic than the other one. Anyone in Washington, D.C. in 2016? Anyone remember the business meeting in 2016? The business meeting in 2016 lasted over 5 hours. You think your business meetings are long. There were 6 candidates for second vice president. We didn't have the rule back then that said if you had less than 10%, you rolled off. The rule said if you had the lowest count, you rolled off. So you can imagine how long it was between votes. I'm sitting next to a dear friend of mine, Deepak Menon. Some of you may know him or have seen him or heard of him. And they cast the first set of votes. Deepak's in first place, I'm in second place, the list goes on and on and on. We're both feeling pretty good. They decide to call a break in the middle of the business meeting, right after, and George is in the back going, no, they shouldn't have done that. And they came back and they ran the next vote. Someone else was in first, Deepak was in second, I was in third, and we looked at each other and went, where did our votes go? You would think the same people would have voted for us the second time, right? Anyhow, this went on forever and ever, and I went out on the second to last ballot. Now, I should have been happy because I made a great showing of it, right? But I wasn't. I went into a dark place. You see, my stepson took a leave from the military to come up and watch me at this election win. I had friends and family that had joined me, and all I saw was I had let them down. I didn't see that I had made a good showing of myself, that I had done what I wanted to do, whether I was elected or not. And I remember sitting out in the lobby just by myself, and that's the worst thing you can do, is to sit by yourself, because you get in your head. And I don't care how many people around you are talking, the voices in your head, always quiet them. And they will either lift you up or they will tear you down. So those voices were there. Never do this again. You disappointed everybody. You let others down. You're not as good as you think you are. Anyone ever think that? They're not as good as they think they are? And I said, I'm not going to do this again. And I sat and I moped, and my facial expression showed it all. My body language showed it all. As a matter of fact, I didn't even want to talk to anybody. Don't come. And a dear friend of mine, Teresa Duke from England, walked up to me and said, would you get over yourself? The world hasn't ended, has it? You lost an election. You weren't getting paid. It didn't cost you anything. If you want to do it again, do it again. But no one can force you to. You have to figure it out for yourself. You have to find that light. You have to find that bright spot. But that's up to you. And that's up to each of us, is to find that bright spot, that light. And I decided to run again the next year. And I was fortunate enough to be elected and serve as president in the following year. We need to write this year out of the history books. March of 2020, I'm sitting in Denver, in Englewood, Colorado, at the board meeting. The executive committee is in there first, doing our work prior to the board coming in. We're in there about March 7th. And all of a sudden, our phones start blowing up. Anyone else have their phone blow up in March of 2020? Yeah. And we're watching the news, and the world is falling apart. And of course, we're not sure how much of it's real, not real, but you're watching this map going from red to red to red to red to red to red. And we're supposed to be bringing people in. And we don't know if we can get them in. If we get them in, we can get them out. And you're seeing 100,000 people dead in one day. It's like, what is going on in this world? And we made the decision not to bring our board in, which was probably the smartest thing we did, because we didn't risk anybody coming in at that point. But I will tell you the eeriness of that event was that we're at the hotel, and they come up and they tell us, we're closing the hotel. There'll be nobody here for you. If you order room service, we will bring it to your door and knock and run. But we're not going to be here to serve you. And we hope you get out. And many people didn't. And the world all of a sudden shifted on its axis. It was the strangest thing. But in August of 2020, while the pandemic is screaming through the world, I take the office of president. Now, here's what I see coming up to this role. I was supposed to take office where? Anyone know? Paris, France. I was going to be the first international officer from the United States to take office outside of North America. Somebody took that away from me. Can you imagine how mad I was? Because all I saw, Agnes, thank you, because all I saw was somebody taking something away from me that I had no control over. Didn't see a bright spot. And now I'm sitting in my office at home. And my office at home is in the attic of my house. It is. It's the only room I got. And I'm watching the computer screens. The disease keeps growing. The world is shutting down. The welcome mats have become stay away. Toastmasters can't meet. Friends that are dying. There's no leadership manual out there for how to lead a global organization in a pandemic. There is no way that anyone else can give you advice on what to do, and there's no one you can call. And you're sitting there by yourself. Can you imagine how dark that place gets? I realized that if you don't have that outlet, if you're constantly internalizing things, boy, it gets really, really, really dark really quickly. And it was supposed to be over in no time. And it wasn't. It went on for nearly 2 years. And it was the challenge of that. And all of a sudden, the Bailey bead popped into my mind. How can I do something different? I'm not the only one dealing with this. You can't feel sorry for 1 million people, so don't feel sorry for yourself. What can you do differently? What can you do that's never been done before? Well, as international officers, we're used to traveling part of the year to visit clubs and districts. I couldn't do that. Okay, I can't do that. What can I do? Clubs are meeting online. They might not want to, but they are. Okay, that's plus. How about this great idea? As international president, I'll visit one club in every country that we have a club. 143 countries. And not only will I go, but I'll give a speech, or I'll take on a role, not just to show up. The madness had really started to sink in at that point. But I discussed it with my staff at World Headquarters and said, what do you think? Can we do this? And of course, they're not going to say no to the international president, right? Anything you want, sir. They should have been talking me back, but they didn't. And they worked at developing a schedule that allowed me the opportunity, should a club wish, to speak at every club in every country that we were represented around the world. It was something that had never been done before. It is something that I have been told by current presidents will never be attempted again. However, someone has challenged me to do a second trip around the world, which I might just take up that challenge. But what I learned from it was that as much of a challenge as people were seeing, as much of a darkness as they were seeing, they just wanted to be with other people. See, anyone in the room an introvert? When the world shut down, did it bother us? Nope. Not even a little bit. My office was in my attic. Half my life was in my attic. I was okay. How about you extroverts? How did that work out? What? I can't be in a social gathering all of a sudden? That hurt. And all of a sudden, you had to realize what it was like to be an introvert and find a way around it. For some of you, it worked out okay. Others, not so much. But I think what happened was when the world went back to, well, whatever normal is, there what we consider normal to be nowadays, extroverts had a great time. They were out the door, here we go. Introverts finally went, I've had enough of this. I'm getting out there. Slowly. Keep my toe in the introvert world, but I'll go out there. We all adapted, we all had to change, right? And it was the darkness that caused us to find that little bit of change in us, in what we did. And if I visited one of your clubs, thank you for having me. It was an honor. But what I learned about individuals around the world was that, as I said, that need to contact with one another. But they were so willing to share who they were as individuals. They were willing to share their country, their culture. I'm kind of a foodie. I love to cook. I love to experiment. Here's the thing about experimenting with food from around the world. You think it tastes right. You don't know if it tastes right until you invite somebody from that corner of the world to go, it's close. But I would start getting cookbooks from around the world because they were sharing their culture, their country. They were letting us into their house. Anyone belong to a club overseas or outside North America? Anybody? Yeah, George does. Jake does. A couple of you. If you get the opportunity, visit a club around the world. I think there's nothing better than giving a speech at a club around the world because you get to find out whether your message is actually coming across or not. I told this story, I think I told it to a couple people. I was in Chennai in 2020, right before the world stopped. And I decided I wanted to say a couple words in Tamil because we were in Chennai and Tamil Nadu. And I look up Google Translate. Don't trust Google Translate, okay? It's like Google Maps. It'll take you into a river if you don't want to go there. But I had a couple good opening words that I was going to say good morning and all this, and I played it back about 37,000 times, and I knew what the words were. And I got up there, and I said it, and they all looked at me like this. What do you say? But they were willing to give you the chance, the opportunity, but it shows how you can oftentimes get things wrong. And if you're visiting clubs around the world, you now have an opportunity to see if you get them wrong or get them right. There's nothing better than giving a speech and getting an evaluation to get that feedback, or providing an evaluation for somebody else. So those were some of the bright spots that came out of the pandemic. There were a lot of dark spots. But it was the ability to shift the narrative from where I was to where people needed me to be. And that's a key statement. You need to shift from where you are to where others need you to be. Club leaders, you need to shift from the officer to where your members need you to be. Area directors, you need to shift from an area director to where your clubs need to be, and so on and so forth. Region advisor needs to focus on where the district needs him to be, not where he needs the district to be. Because you can't take people where you want them to go. You need to take them where they need to go. They might not realize they need to go there, but they do. And it's because of some of those limits that we put upon ourselves. And this afternoon, during my session, we'll talk about some limits that we put upon ourselves. But what is the light in these situations? Where do we find these? And the light for me is finding the way to change the narrative, flip the script. I'm going to ask this question. I know there's going to be an engineer in the room that's going to give me a hard time about it, and I'm okay. I'm an engineer as well. How many sides are there on a coin? It's not a trick question. So there's the engineers in the room going, it's free. There's a top, a bottom, and a little edge around the outside. There's probably a million sides to it when you think about all the textures and everything that are in it. But we look at it as two sides, right? It's heads and tails. It's the Toastmasters logo or the core values on the other side. It's two sides of what we look at. And challenge is on one side of that coin. Opportunity is on the other side. And it's which side you focus on that helps you find that light. And for too many years, I focused on the challenge side of that coin and not the opportunity side. What did I learn throughout this journey? How did I learn to change my focus? You know, you draw up a presentation, you think it's going to work, and then you end up in a dark place on the stage. We don't know what others are going through all the time. They don't know what we're going through. What to them could be a major challenge, for us, maybe nothing. For us, what may be a major challenge, to them, maybe nothing. And they don't know that. We don't know that. You know, how do you know without asking the questions? How do you get yourself out of that bias of assumption? Right? Bias of assumption is real. Facebook. How many Facebook friends do you have? How many of them are actual friends? And well, I posted, but nobody responded. I must have upset somebody. On Facebook, you wake up in the morning, you upset somebody on Facebook. But it's that bias in there, that bias of reality where you're putting yourself in a position, right? I'll send a text message to friends. I didn't get an immediate response. I must have done something wrong. I put myself in that position. No one put me there. Right? So changing that narrative, realizing we don't know what others are going through. That person may have been busy. They just couldn't respond. Area directors, when you're making visits. Club officers. I emailed my club officers, they didn't email me back. Anyone have a phone? Anyone know how to do anything with it but text? There's a keypad with numbers you can call, really, and it's okay. Using those things to be able to figure out where the difference is, why there's a disconnect, what someone's going through, what they're not, what you're going through, what they're not, is key. We need to be able to listen. We need to be able to ask, and we need to be able to be honest. Honesty is the key. Everyone out there will say, I'm fine. I'm doing well. Are you? Are you? Or are you afraid to say you're not? If you're afraid to say you're not, that dark spot's going to get darker and darker and darker. So putting yourself in another person's position, trying to figure out where they're from. He or she with the most toys when they die wins. Yep. David, I have over 5,000 comic books at home. All bagged, boarded, and tucked away. When I die, that's not going to get me anything. I have sports cars, race cars. That's not going to do anything for me, is it? How many items do you have? How many toys do you have that are going to put you in a position that when the time comes, you win? Guess what? When you're gone, nobody wins. Somebody gets it, though, depending on your will. That statement is as false as it can possibly be. Here's what's true. He or she who makes a positive impact on the world wins in life. Every time you give an evaluation for somebody, every time you encourage somebody, every time you help them reach a little farther than they think they can, you've made a positive impact on their life. Would you all indulge me in a little exercise? I know it's after lunch. You've been sitting for a while, listening to me. If you can, if you would like to, please stand up. Boy, there's some reluctant people in the crowd. The workshop's going to be hard on you, I'm going to tell you. All right. I want to just show you how different you can make the world around you with just a couple statements and how you can change people's beliefs and their attitudes. Listen to me carefully. I want you to reach up as high as you possibly can. Go ahead. Everyone do it now. Reach up as high as you possibly can. Feels good to stretch, doesn't it? Yeah. I've all got a question for you. See, you've all got your hands up for the answer. All right, put your arms down for a minute. Shake it out. Feel good? It feels nice to stretch after a while, doesn't it? All right. What I want you to do this time is I want you to reach up higher than you did the last time, okay? On the count of 3, everyone reach up higher than they did the last time. Oh, see, I'm reaching a little higher, right? Okay, put it down. I can do this all afternoon. If I didn't like you, I would. You can sit down. What did I ask you the first time? What was the question I asked you the first time? Followed by? Reach as high as you could. I asked you to reach as high as you could. What happened the second time? You reached higher than the first time, right? How come you reached higher the first time when I asked you to reach as high as you could the first time? Because I encouraged you to, right? That's how we help individuals grow. We give them that encouragement to reach beyond where they think they can reach, beyond where they think they can go. Evaluation is key to that. Personal growth is key to that. If you didn't think you could be where you are today, stopped, use those. I give a speech about the 2 most dangerous letters in the English alphabet. Anyone know what they are? Nope. N-O is not it either. N and T. N and T. But yeah, true. It's true. When you put an apostrophe between them, they become supervillains. right? And can becomes can't, and do becomes don't, could becomes couldn't, should becomes shouldn't. Because we're in that mindset, and individuals get in that mindset. It's up to you to help them get beyond that mindset. I can't reach any farther. Yeah, you can. You showed you could. And in times of great challenges, lead to great opportunities. I mean, there's no doubt about it. If you weren't challenged, if you just lived a mundane life with nothing ever to challenge yourself, and it doesn't matter what that is. Maybe you're growing a garden and the challenge, I really want to grow some peppers this year because they were terrible last year. That's a challenge. My peppers were great. I don't know what your problem is, but I'm going to encourage you. We need to find those opportunities. The International President's World Tour was a great opportunity to do something in a great time of challenge. You are all going to find times of challenge, and we'll need to find those great opportunities. They're in you. Let them out. Share them with the world. Make a difference. And this is key. If you don't give up on yourself, others won't give up on you. But I guarantee you, the minute you give up on yourself, it's going to be very hard to get people to believe in you and push you forward. Because you can only give so much. And I believe if you invest in yourself, I'll be willing to invest in you all day long. But you have to at least have some skin in the game, right? You have to be willing to do something to make a chance. Take a challenge. And every setback is a learning experience if you let yourself learn from it. If you don't put up the brick wall that says, I don't want to learn. Nobody gets in. Stay away. Don't care. Don't want to learn anything from it. We're all going to have those opportunities. We're all going to have those challenges. We're all going to be in a position of learning. In life, the one thing no one can ever, ever, ever take away from you is what you've learned. Material items can be gone in a heartbeat. They can't take away your knowledge. They can't take away what you learn. They can't take away who you are. And I encourage you to keep learning, to keep gaining that knowledge, to keep being the best individuals you can be. And unprecedented events require unprecedented opportunities. And I hope we never see another pandemic. I'll take it. It's a Saturday, but I'll still take it as an amen on not seeing the pandemic again. But there will be challenges. Just turn on the news. You're going to see them. And we need to find opportunities within that to overcome that. I quit. There we go. If you only look at the darkness, you'll never see the light. Do you know what the greatest adversary of darkness is? Light. It's the only thing that can eliminate it. So if you're always looking at the darkness, never ever going to see the light. Never going to find those opportunities. Focus on those challenges. The opportunities will never be there in front of you. They will be, but you won't see them. So you need to put the spotlight on them. Make sure you're bringing them forward. If you find yourself in the darkness, look for the Bailey's beads. Remember that image of the solar eclipse, that ring of light around it that prevents total darkness. That ring of light that, as it starts to shift, becomes the diamond. Your opportunities will start out small lights, bits of light, and turn into a brilliant diamond once you move forward. And if you see somebody else facing the darkness, don't let them in there alone. Pull them out. Don't push them farther into it. Encourage them to come out. Be the hand that brings them forward. Be the person who says, reach a little higher. I know you can do it. Be that individual that encourages someone and brings them with you. In times of great darkness, the light often shines the brightest. I wish you all brightness and light in your life. And when you do face challenges, I hope you'll remember the Bailey's beads. Kevin?